Okay, so is the Death Star real? Did God destroy a planet? If God did destroy a planet, should we, where does it fall in the scriptures? And does the scriptures tell us that a planet was destroyed? Um, but the very first place I want to start is again right here in Hebrews chapter 6, verse 1, where it says, therefore, leaving the principles of the doctrine of Christ, we are being asked to leave the truths, the physical truths about Christ, and go into another realm, into the first realm. Okay. And again, like I said in my previous videos, we are in a loop. Okay. And as long as we stay in this loop, we will not get to where we need to be. So we need to begin to evolve away from these physical truths about Christ into celestial truths about Christ, and begin to teach from there, and begin to construct a new mindset from there. And the reason why I say this is because of what Hebrews chapter 6, verse 1 says. It says, therefore, leaving the principles of the doctrine of Christ. Most Christians would fear if you stood up in church and you just said this, therefore, leaving principles of the doctrine of Christ. They would be in absolute fear because they would not understand those words. They would just tremble at that because they would never, 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 never leave the physical Christ. But yet we are being asked to migrate from the principles of the doctrine of Christ, not Christ, but the principles of the doctrine of Christ. And what is the principle? Well, the principle is a kind of rule, belief, idea that guides you. Okay. Principle also means truth. See right here? Truth, concept, idea, theory of Christ. Okay. And so this would also explain again uh, in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, starting at verse 16, where Paul says, wherefore henceforth know we no man after the flesh. Yea, though we have known Christ after the flesh, yet now henceforth know we him no more. And this would explain why only a few are going to find that narrow door that will actually find this narrow truth, because not a lot of people are looking for it. They will ignore all of these finer points in the scriptures, especially this type of instructions where we are being told not to even know Christ anymore. Why? So that we can become new creatures in him. All right. And let the old things pass away and let all the new things become, new. Are you going to still celebrate the birth of Christ on December 25th? Well, the scriptures tell us otherwise. It tells us no, that we shouldn't do that because that's an old thing. We need to know what the new thing is. And so that's what I want to talk about in this video. With something as silly as saying, is the Death Star real? Did God destroy a planet? What are these celestial things that we need to invest our thinking into? Right. And the very first place I'm going to go on this subject is Revelation chapter 12, starting at verse 7, where it speaks about Michael and the angels fighting against the dragon and his angels. And if we read through this, we're going to discover that they are obviously speaking about heaven, this war that is in heaven. Matter of fact, that's what it says it right there. There was a war in heaven. Okay. And so we know that something takes place in heaven. And one of those things that takes place in heaven is the birth of Christ. All right, a celestial birth of Christ as opposed to a terrestrial birth of Christ. And that birth caused the war to happen. Now, something did happen when he was born in the flesh with King Herod ordering the execution of all the male children initially under 2 years old and then upwards. Uh, but nothing like this story. That scene that happened on the earth doesn't compare to what happened in the heavens. And so I want to discuss that today because I think that this proves this war and this fight over the birth of Christ when Michael and them protected him to be born in the celestial uh, uh, realm. And what I mean by celestial realm, I'm just simply talking about the local solar system, right? And this took place in the local solar system. Another way of saying solar is heavenly. And so when we think of the local solar system, we are talking about a heavenly system or the system of heaven. Uh, just like when Enoch was taken up and he saw all the things that took place, he saw what took place in our solar system, the visible things, and he saw invisible things take place in our solar system. So let's read Revelations chapter 12, verse 7. And it says, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. So now they are pushed out of the heavenly system. Okay. And this is the point that I'm going to try to make about understanding the difference between the heavenly system and the earthly system. All right. And it says here, and the dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. Now, traditionally, most people would read this, the whole world, and apply this to the earth. And this is not speaking about the earth. It is talking about the heavenly system, the celestial world. How do I know that? How do you know that? Because the very next thing that is said here in this verse is he was cast into the earth. All right. So he deceived the whole world, meaning the solar system. All right. He deceived the heavenly system, the celestial world, and then he was cast out into the earth. These are two different locations. Okay. He was deceiving people somewhere, and then he was ejected out, cast out into a specific location, which we call our earth. Okay. So let me read that again so you understand it. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So this whole entire group no longer can reside in the solar system. They must reside down here on the earth, in this location. All right, so now let's look at the word for world here. Okay. I believe you said Okamami is how you say it. And I'll just slide down here. Pops up. And we'll read what it says. All right, you see? Okamami. Okamene. Okay, so we'll accept that. And what does this Okamene mean? What does it mean? It means the whole inhabited world, right? House, family, people, nation. Okay. And so to put this in perspective as it meaning the entire solar system, all of the beings that are in the solar system, as opposed to the earth, all we got to do is go here to John chapter 3, verse 16, right? Where it says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Okay. Now we know that the word world here means cosmos. And we know that cosmos means, is referring to space. It's referring to the universe. And what does cosmos mean? Cosmo often simply means universe. Okay, so now John 3:16 now has to be renewed. All right, so it says, we need to understand that Yahweh so loved the cosmos, so Yahweh so loved the universe, that he so loved the solar system, that he gave his only begotten son, all right, to this local system. Okay, so let me read this again. For Yahweh so loved the cosmos, okay, not the earth, okay, the cosmos, right, not the earth, that he gave it his only begotten son. So to prove this connection, in connection to the celestial birth of Christ, all we got to do is go back to Revelation chapter 12. And let me click off of this. All right, now let's go here. All right, this is the same chapter. This is not a reference to Mary or anything terrestrial. This is speaking about the celestial birth of Christ. And it says, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pained to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in the cosmos, in heaven, in the universe. And behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. Okay, the Okamami, right? The people, right? A certain group of people, a certain group of family, he drew from the heavens. Okay. And did cast them where? To the earth. So again, this woman that is pregnant and she's about to give birth is in the heavens. Right. And so he begins to cast people out of the heavens, and he cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, or devour her child as soon as it was born. Okay. And so then all hell breaks out. Right? All hell breaks out. And then what happens? And then there's war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. And the dragon and his angels fought. And the dragon and his angels, and the dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not, and neither was their place found any more in heaven. So this is why I'm asking the question of whether or not did Michael and the angels destroy a planet, essentially evicting the dragon and his angels to the vicinity of the earth. And the reason why I say that is because of this word place, right? Neither was there a place found anymore in heaven. So they lost a place is like a home, a building, a planet. And so their home planet had to have been destroyed. And so let's take a listen to this video about planet Phaeton, which they say may exist, it may not existed. I think that it did. And I think that the scriptures is telling us that it did exist and it was destroyed in this war.
Hello wonderful person, this is Anton, and in today's video we're actually going to be talking about the asteroid belt. And we're going to be talking about a planet that we thought existed in this region that was then destroyed and creating the asteroid belt, and this planet had a name, Phaeton. Let's talk about this, and welcome to What the Math. So this right here is Phaeton. This is a planet we thought actually did exist at some point in this region, and then something happened to it and it created the asteroid belt. At least this was the major theory for a very, very long time, since basically early 1800s. Back then, scientists actually thought that there was a pattern between the distance between planets and the sun. And so, for example, if you were to look at the distances here, there's actually a kind of a symmetry in terms of distances. And this symmetry can be established as a kind of a pattern. And using this pattern, which I'm going to be discussing in one of the future videos, the scientists established that there was something missing in between Jupiter and Mars. And ironically, they actually discovered Ceres only a few years later, which was hypothetically that planet that they were missing. But then they started finding more and more asteroids, and it kind of put a dent into that theory. And they actually started realizing that maybe, just maybe, this asteroid belt that they started to discover was actually a result of a planet that was previously located in this area, but then something happened to it. And they actually back then proposed 4 major theories. One of them was that, well, maybe, just maybe, this planet was actually somehow destroyed by a collision with something else. In other words, possibly a very large object such as another planet may have collided with Phaeton and basically destroyed it completely, creating a lot of debris. So this was one of the propositions. The other one was in regards to this particular planet moving too close to Jupiter and basically getting shredded apart by Jupiter's gravitation. There was also another theory that proposed the hypothetical brown dwarf called Nemesis that may have actually destroyed this particular object. And the last but not least was another theory that proposed that maybe there was some sort of a cataclysm on the inside of the planet, and it basically resulted in the explosion of this planet, which also resulted in the asteroid belt. Now, all of these theories were very interesting, and they tried to explain kind of something that we believed back then. We believed that this is the region where we should expect a planet, and because there was no planet but instead a lot of debris, we thought that it's just something was there before, and that something was destroyed by some kind of an event. And it sounds like a pretty sound theory. As a matter of fact, it does have a name. This currently is known as the disruption theory, but most of the astrophysicists and most of the scientists today don't actually believe this is really what happened. As a matter of fact, there's really no reason for us to believe that this is what happened.
The death of the planet Phaeton. Between Mars and Jupiter is a belt of asteroids, consisting of many small cosmic bodies that sweep in outer space around the Sun. According to some scientists, they are fragments of the deceased planet number 5, called the Phaeton. No one knows what caused the death of this planet, whether there was life on it and whether our Earth can repeat its fate. Instead of a planet thousands of asteroids, Phaeton is called a hypothetical planet. Whether it actually existed in the distant past, this is a big question, still causing heated debate among scientists. How was the planet discovered that no one had ever seen? This happened in the 8th century, when the German astronomers John Titius and Johann Bode jointly formulated the so-called Titius-Bode rule. According to this rule, the distances of then known planets from the Sun obeyed a certain mathematical regularity, thanks to which it was possible to calculate where the planets that were not yet discovered were located. According to this rule, the distances of then known planets from the Sun obeyed a certain mathematical regularity, thanks to which it was possible to calculate where the planets that were not yet discovered were located. The fact that this Titius-Bode rule is true and real works, was proved by subsequent discoveries of Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. Back in 1781, after the discovery of Uranus, the question arose for the first time about planet number 5, which, according to the rule, was supposed to be between Mars and Jupiter. The search began for this missing fifth planet, which was taken by a group of 24 astronomers. It so happened that in 1801 the Italian astronomer Giuseppe Piazzi was ahead of this group. He discovered in a predicted orbit the dwarf planet Ceres, which was too small to be considered planet number 5. When in 1802 astronomer Heinrich Olbers discovered in close orbit another dwarf planet Pallada, he suggested that all these small cosmic bodies are fragments of the once existing large planet. After that, Olbers calculated where to find new dwarf planets. Already in 1804, Juno was discovered in a place predicted by a scientist, and 3 years later Olbers himself discovered West. Olbers' hypothesis about the lost fifth planet, later called Phaeton in honor of the mythical hero, son of the god of the sun Helios, was so plausible that for a long period it became generally recognized. In the following decades, hundreds of new asteroids were discovered, and then thousands. According to various estimates, in the asteroid belt there are from 2 to 4,000 relatively large cosmic bodies, and the number of different little things can amount to hundreds of thousands of objects. According to rough estimates, if all the bodies of the asteroid belt were blinded by one big ball, then we would have a planet with a diameter of about 5,900 kilometers. It would be larger than Mercury, 4878 km, but smaller than Mars, 6780 km. If such an impressive planet actually existed, what could have caused its destruction into such a large number of fragments? Lines of Jupiter or atomic warfare. The simplest and shortest explanation of the death of the planet Phaeton is connected with the giant Jupiter. According to one hypothesis, the Phaeton collapsed under the influence of powerful gravity of the giant planet. Jupiter simply torn the neighboring planet with the assistance of the gravitational field of Mars. The destruction of the Phaeton could have occurred in close proximity with Jupiter, which happened for an unknown reason. True, skeptics believe that as a result of the explosion of the planet, both Jupiter itself and its satellite system would be severely damaged. According to the calculations of one group of scientists, the destruction of the Phaeton occurred 16 million years ago. But it would take at least 2 billion years to restore all the parameters of Jupiter after the explosion. It turns out that the destruction of the Phaeton, if it happened, did not happen 16 million, but billions of years ago. The asteroid that destroyed the dinosaurs 65 million years ago speaks in favor of this assumption. If the Phaeton collapsed 16 million years ago, then where did it come from? There are other hypotheses that explain the destruction of the Phaeton. According to one of them, due to too fast daily rotation, the planet was torn by centrifugal force. But according to another hypothesis, Phaeton was the victim of a collision with his own companion. Perhaps the most interesting hypothesis was proposed by science fiction writers, who in a number of works linked the destruction of the Phaeton with the atomic war unleashed by its inhabitants. So powerful nuclear strikes were made that the planet could not stand it and fell apart. As a variant of this hypothesis, there is an assumption that the Phaeton civilization fought with the civilization of Mars. After the exchange of powerful nuclear strikes, the red planet became lifeless, and the Phaeton completely collapsed. This hypothesis may seem too fantastic and unbelievable to some, but recently the famous astrophysicist John Brandenburg said that the death of life on Mars was caused by two powerful nuclear strikes delivered from space millions of years ago. By the way, the secret of tektites, mysterious formations similar to the glassy slides that form in places of ground-based nuclear explosions, also fits into this hypothesis. Some believe that tektites are traces of an ancient atomic war that once occurred on Earth, while others see fragments of glass meteorites in tektites. The famous astronomer Felix Siegel believed that if glass meteorites actually exist, then they were formed as a result of nuclear explosions on some of the large cosmic bodies. Maybe this body was Phaeton, when the moon was still gone. The Soviet astronomer Felix Yurevich Siegel, already mentioned above, at one time developed a very interesting hypothesis. The scientist suggested that once in a common orbit around the Sun revolved a three-planet system consisting of Mars, Phaeton and the Moon. The catastrophe, which turned the Phaeton into thousands of fragments, upset the balance of this system. As a result, Mars and the Moon were in orbits closer to the Sun. The heating of these cosmic bodies followed. Mars lost most of its atmosphere and the Moon the whole. It ended with the fact that the Moon, being close to the Earth, was captured by our planet. Interestingly, there is historical evidence of the absence of the Moon in the sky in antediluvian times. In the 3rd century BC, Apollonius Rhodius, the chief overseer of the Library of Alexandria, wrote that there was a time when there was no moon in the Earth's sky. This information Rhodius received by rereading the oldest manuscripts that burned with the library. In the most ancient myths of the Bushmen of South Africa, it is also said that only the stars illuminated the night sky before the flood. There is no information about the moon and in the most ancient Mayan chronicles. The famous writer and researcher Gorbowski believes that the Phaeton died 11652 years ago. Mind you, this is about 12,000 years ago. By this time, some researchers just attribute the appearance of the moon on the horizon and a global catastrophe, the flood. Approaching the Earth, the moon, no doubt, caused this disaster, which is reflected in the myths and traditions of almost all the peoples of our planet. Amazingly, there is a hypothesis that the moon is the core of the collapsed Phaeton.
Okay, so listening to that, they believe that this planet Phaeton possibly did exist. And I found it interesting when they spoke about a possible battle between the inhabitants of Mars, Phaeton, and Jupiter, and that they found these, nuclear fragments that could only be there if there was a nuclear catastrophe. And so this brings us to this moon that looks like the Death Star. And so let's take a look at this moon that looks like a Death Star. And they're saying that they're finding evidence of a nuclear battle on Mars, and possibly this is what may have caused the destruction of planet Phaeton. And we know as Black folks, when we hear that name, planet Phaeton, sounds too much like Satan. Okay. And so I think even in the naming of this planet, so-called planet, there is a connection between what Revelations chapter 12 is saying about the place of the dragon and his angels not having a place anymore or a planet anymore. Let's take a look at this moon that resembles the Death Star in the movie Star Wars. And I don't think it's a mistake uh, how these two things look just alike. So let's take a look at uh, this moon. So let's look at Mimas and what it says here in Google. It says until recently, the only claim of to fame that Mimas, one of Saturn's moons, was that its heavenly cratered surface made it look like the Death Star from the Star Wars film. But now it seems like Mimas has a global ocean of liquid water hiding beneath its surface. Don't forget that. As we look at some of the photos of this so-called moon that looks just like the Death Star. And so you see them here. And one of the things that I want you to pay attention to is the fact that in all of these new photos of this moon, see how the Death Star has that line running through it? So does this moon. You can kind of pick it up here in this shop version of this moon, and they seem to want to scrub it out, but there is a line running all the way around this moon, just like the Death Star. So this is beginning to make me think that maybe there's something to the portrayal of this moon in Star Wars, maybe being some type of weapon, as opposed to just a moon of Saturn. Let me go here. And you see here what I'm talking about. You see this ridge here, this line that goes all the way around, just like the Death Star. And so I think that this is not a mistake that they portrayed this moon to be a planet killer in the movie Star Wars, because that's essentially what it was. It was uh, it's a Death Star. It kills planets. And so I think listening to the suggestion that Mars showed signs of some type of nuclear activity on it, uh, and suggesting maybe that there was some type of battle between Phaeton and the moon, uh, and Mars, and that the moon is a result of that planet being destroyed, and that they believe that it may be the core of Phaeton. So all of these things seems to point to Revelations chapter 12, the war in heaven, and the destruction of the planet, which forced uh, Satan and his angels out of the heavenly system and down here upon the earth. As a matter of fact, let's read this again. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels and prevailed not. Neither was there a place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole universe, which deceived the whole solar system. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And this is what they say when they get rid of them in the solar system. It says, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is salvation come, or now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And so I think that there is a connection between this moon of Saturn, the Death Star, them finding fragments proving that there was some type of nuclear war on Mars, and then perhaps that
There is strong evidence that there were gigantic nuclear explosions on Mars before we even knew Mars existed, before humans existed.
That's crazy.
If you look at the surface of the planet, there's all sorts of geology very similar to Earth, that there's plenty of speculation and evidence to suggest that they used to have oceans and lakes and rivers and all these other things that would go along with a planet that had the crucial elements to sustain life. And the question has always been, well, what happened to it? The atmosphere is completely different there, and it's completely different because it is non-existent. So when the Curiosity rover went to Mars, they're noticing was this element called Xenon 129. The only places you find it is a nuclear explosion. They find it all over the place in Hiroshima. They find it in Nagasaki. They find it all these places where they've done nuclear testing before. And that is all over the surface of Mars. And at levels 2.5 times the highest ever recorded on Earth.
war stripped the atmosphere and killed the people on Mars or whatever they're trying to say. I think it's all connected. Now, let me go here. Let me focus on this here, right? Verse 10, and where it says, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down. Now remember, Okamemi meant house, family, people, nation. And Satan was among our people, okay? And I want to go to the book of Enoch, see where I have it at. Where it speaks about Satan or Lucifer or the dragon or, Esau. They're all one and the same, okay? When they were in heaven, that they used to accuse us before the Heavenly Father, right? And so this is Enoch, book 3, and I want to start here where it says verse 12 at, and it says, why are they called the Seraphim? Because they burn the writing tablets of Satan. Every day, Satan is sitting together with Samael, the prince of Rome, and with Dub Beel, the prince of Persia, and they write the iniquities of Israel. You see, this is a specific thing that they were doing. They were not up there accusing any other family or group of people or race of people except for the children of Israel. And that is, for this to say this here in the writings of Enoch, and for it to also be captured in the King James Version, speaks volumes, because it's telling us that, when we speak of racism, we got to also speak of celestial racism. And so that they were up there going before the Most High and trying to accuse the Israelites before the Most High. All right, let me go back to that. All right. And they write the iniquities of Israel, on writing tablets, which they hand over to the seraphim. I hope I'm saying that right. In order that they may present them before the Holy One. Blessed be he, so that he may destroy Israel. You see, and so this is the situation. This is the whole climate, if you can understand it. Here you have these people who are trying to get us destroyed as a people. And then from us as a people come the Savior of the universe, not just the earth or the terrestrial things down here, but this was being done in the heavens, okay, in the heavenly system within our solar system. This all was taking place, and then it recycled, it reincarnated down here upon the earth. All right, so let me finish reading this. So that he may destroy Israel from the universe. But the seraphim know from the secrets of the Holy One, blessed be he, that he desires not that this people Israel should perish. All right, so again, if you got the Holy Ghost, or as it's called in the book of Enoch, the Shekinah, if you have the Holy Spirit, you should know the secret of the Holy One, that he does not desire that his people Israel should ever be destroyed. And so you cannot create a doctrine to replace them, as you have in Christianity, to replace the children of Israel with Christians, because you would know that this is not something that the Holy One desires. Okay. What do the seraphim? Every day do they receive, accept them from the hand of Satan, and burn them into the burning fire over against the high and exalted throne, in order that they may not come before the Holy One, blessed be he, at the time when he is sitting upon the throne of judgment, judging the whole world in truth, or judging the whole solar system in truth. Okay. And so what the angels are doing is, every time Satan and the prince of Rome and the prince of Persia come to accuse us as black folks, as Israelites, as the children of Israel, the angels take their records and they burn them. They delete them out of existence, so that it would never come before the Holy One. And this, again, is captured in Revelations chapter 12, verse 10. And I'll read it again. And it says, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God night and day. All right, now listen, let's continue, because the storyline seems to fit. Okay, and it says, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto death. They rejoiced, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. You see, notice, it's not saying rejoice the inhabitants of the earth, okay? It's only saying rejoice in the heavens, because they have removed these people, they have removed this threat from the heavenly solar system, and possibly the whole universe, okay? Because they have been cast down here to the terrestrial level. All right, so let me read this again since I messed it up. It says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe unto the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. You see? Woe, destruction to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. So anything that is on the land and in the sea, hey, when they sent them down here, they sent nothing but trouble down here. And so they're telling us, hey, listen, y'all better now be careful, because these fools we done cast down there to y'all, they've been cast out of the universe and down there to where you guys are.
many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences, and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations. And then shall the end come. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. Woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake those days shall be shortened.